everyone. My name is Christina Malyan from Malyan Law. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. What more can I say but the two magical words of student loans? Tonight, I have a very special guest who I've had the pleasure to work with myself regarding my student loans. And I have invited Mary Kavukchyan from MK Loan Consulting, who will be presenting us with a slew of information. Just as a reminder on both of our behalves, this material is for educational purposes only. It will cover general topics. It is not specified or specific or unique to your situation. So if you do want to know more, we highly urge you contact MK Loan Consulting, or you can always contact my office and we'll put you in touch. With that said, thank you for joining, and I want to welcome our guest, Mary Kavukchyan. Mary, can you please introduce yourself, give us some background, and while you do that, Mary, I'm going to share this program to different groups so that everybody could actually benefit from our live.
Of course. Hi, Christina John. Thank you so much for having me here. My name is Mary. I am the CEO of MK Loan Consulting. I've had MK Loan Consulting since 2017. Prior to that, I've had experience working on student loans for over a decade. I specialize as a third party. So anything that would benefit you for your student loans, I will figure it out. And if I can't figure it out, that means you don't qualify for forgiveness. Also, I am contracted throughout the whole United States, which means I could take on any clientele from California all the way to New York and everything in between. I work on federal and private loans. Basically it.
Wonderful. Let's start with private loans because I know that is, a very, it's a more of the limited spectrum than your general public sector. So with private loans, is it all private loans that you can handle, or are there specific ones that your company can take care of?
No, we only work with Sallie Mae currently and then Navient. And what we do with private loans, unfortunately, there's no true forgiveness. So whatever your principal amount is, keep in mind you are going to pay your principal amount. We help you on the interest end of it. So hypothetically speaking, you have 11, 12% interest. We're able to drop it down anywhere between 2 to 4%.
Okay, so it's more like a consolidation servicing company, not consolidation, no?
It's a temporary program where we're able to drop the interest rate. So it allows our customers to aggressively pay towards their loan. So at the point, they're not accruing and capitalizing significant amount of interest.
Okay, now let's get into these public loans, federal loans, which we all are in this crisis, and we hope that the bubble bursts on these as opposed to the housing market, which I'm going to bring up the housing market because that's one of your prime areas. So let's talk about nonprofits. We know or we've heard that if you are part of a nonprofit or you've been working for a nonprofit for X amount of years, that your loan automatically gets discharged or forgiven. I know I use that very freely, but can you give us more information about the nonprofit?
Unfortunately, it's not a cookie cutter program. Everybody thinks, oh, I'm going to work in the public spectrum. And then 10 years later, poof, my loan goes away. No, the government isn't going to make it so easy. Unfortunately, with the nonprofit, you have to have qualifying payments. You have to be in qualifying programs, and you need to make sure that at the end of the term, you're getting the full forgiveness. So a lot of people go, well, nonprofit doesn't work. I've submitted it, I've worked it. But here's the thing, the government constantly changes programs. Before FFAL loans qualify, now you have to do a consolidation in order for those to qualify. Certain programs in the IDR, like components, won't qualify. So there's a lot that goes into it, and you need to make sure every year that you've worked for a nonprofit, you're able to match 12 months worth of payments at a time.
So you're not saying like, okay, here I am working my ninth and a half year, the 10th year comes, all of a sudden I apply to this nonprofit forgiveness. You're actually saying yearly, we have to make sure we're applying and being in the right programs that these IDR programs are allowing us to be in order to consecutively or aggregately qualify us. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, you need to be on top of it. See, here's the thing, everybody could do student loan forgiveness. It's not rocket science, and it's not a no-brainer, nor do I claim I have some magic pills that I could erase loans. No, what my company does, we specialize on student loans with legal loopholes where it took me many years to figure that out. there's ways for us to go in there and say, oh, you know what? You're a teacher. You qualify for X grant. This program will benefit you. Ultimately, instead of you paying 200,000, now you're going to pay 60,000. So everybody's case is different, but you have to make sure you're in the right program. Because again, this is not specifically for nonprofit, because nonprofit, whatever you do get forgiven, there's no taxes on it. This one is specifically for for-profit people. If you go into the wrong forgiveness, you're going to have to pay penalties. And that's interest on interest on interest, because throughout the life of your loan on the wrong program, you're paying the bare minimum. So what happens is
this is, you know, I think just as I am confused, because this was all news to me when I came to your office about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and you've actually changed my life. We're going to get to that, but before we get into the different programs, just on a nonprofit. So those of you who are in nonprofits, or are part of governmental sectors, you have to each year make sure that you are in the right program, and you can contact Mary to make sure that you're in the right program. And guess what? If you're in the right program, you don't need her, and she will tell you you're in the right program. You don't need me. So why this is important is because we don't want you to wait 10 years later, come time where, you know, you're trying to get your loans forgiven, and here you are, you know, with a rude awakening that you were in the wrong program for a decade. Let's get to the part of this, the different programs you were saying.
Let me continue on the public service for one more thing.
Sure.
So before, a lot of these programs required you to be in the proper programs, and you have to have the right structure of the loans. So what the Biden administration did is he gave us a limited time to get everything situated and up to date. So what that means is, let's say 10 years ago, you've worked in the public spectrum for 15 years, but yet you're still paying for your student loans, or anything past 10 years, and you're still paying for your student loans, there's something wrong with that. Because legally, we could go back and, you know, retrograde all those payments, regardless of the program you're in, and then apply it to the current term, and then do a full discharge all of your loans. We've done that for multiple people, and not only do we discharge it, we get the money back for overpayment.
Now, when you discharge nonprofit, we're not talking about the other programs. When you discharge nonprofit loans, do individuals still end up paying anything on the difference?
No.
Okay. So have you been able to discharge nonprofit individuals?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I love them. Just this year, we had about 15 discharges where we anticipated their loans to get discharged in a later time. But since the Biden administration passed this new regulations, we were able to retrograde it, catch all the payments, and do instant discharge, which is wonderful. Amazing.
Mary, also, when I'm kind of looking around, I'm also monitoring questions. So everyone, if you guys have any questions, please comment in the section below. And what I'll do is I will go ahead and ask Mary live, as you know, as much as she can. She'll give us an answer. You can always contact us. So with that said, Mary, now we were talking about governmental. I do want to ask a question regarding police officers, because that's where my head went when you said governmental. Are there any programs specific for police officers?
Yes. So there is one application that you could do if you're a police officer. It allows me to immediately discharge up to 90% of your loans. Granted, it is not for every police officer. There's so many like regulations that you have to match, but a lot of the police officers and firefighters and ambulance workers will get up to 90% of discharge.
90%. Okay. So
90%. That's an immediate one.
That's the immediate one. So that's the police department. Now, as we're talking about the schooling, because police have obviously degrees, and if they've gone through school, this is the program they should be in. What about schools that we've heard, like FIDM, Art Institute? Those have been closed, and some of them actually are closing. And a lot of people have reached out to me with specific questions during our posting of this live, that what happens if my school has closed? I unfortunately have not been able to get the job or the profession that I went to school for. What can I do? And they are public loans.
Okay, so you could do two things. It's called the Borrower of Defense application. Now, you could do it on your own and go in and fill out 21 pages of application. And it's detail by detail. You have to make your own lines pages because it's an algorithm application. And it's detail by detail. You have to make your own lines. Oh, it's repeating myself. Sorry for
no, so sorry. It's the feed that went off on mine because I'm answering questions, but apologies. So
okay. So there's an application. It's called a Bar of Defense. So we have 2 people currently in my office trained, and literally all they do is Bar of Defense applications. Did we get hit with success stories? Yes, we just got it 2 days ago on another client of ours.
Wonderful.
Usually it's like Le Cordon Bleu, the RAI, ITT Tech, the Art Institute. There's so many that their schools lost accreditations. And with the right wording, again, it's a 50-50 shot. Nobody's guaranteed with a positive outcome. But we submit it, but we know the language and the lingo and what to put in, and our chances are higher.
Once again, I just want to remind our viewers that you are a third-party vendor who is basically helping the consumer with these applications. They could do it on their own, but I myself have come to you. Doesn't matter what my degree holds. It's a matter of knowing the system and applying it the right way. We did have a question come in. I do want to make sure that our viewers know that we are, while monitoring the comment, it's asking about the fee structure of how you operate. We will get to that because that's part of our closing of how you contact Mary, the free consultation she's going to provide, and, by watching this program, what benefits you'll have. So Mary, let's get into the majority, right? Your majority of clientele are in, whether they're not in the nonprofit, they're not in closed schools, or they're not police officers. They are your, people who went to school and who have a student loan. It doesn't matter whether it's bachelor's, graduate degree, as long as they're federal.
Here's the thing, but that doesn't count. It depends on your loans. You have to have the qualifying loans. Everybody thinks everybody qualifies for student loan forgiveness.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Now, I know you and I have had multiple conversations. There's so many, the umbrella is IDR, right? Income Driven Program. IDR, Income Driven Program. Under IDR, which is that application that everybody fills out, there are a slew of different categories. And each and every year, somebody may be in and out of a category, or so on and so forth. Please take the forum and let us know, what is the biggest mistake you've seen people do? You can even give mine as an example. What's the biggest mistake people have done, and not knowingly what they're actually getting themselves into?
Honestly, they've placed themselves in the wrong program. So let me give you just 2 of the scenarios. An IBR, income-based repayment, it's always 15% of your discretionary income. So what that means for somebody that has a $20,000 to $40,000 student loan, it's not a big deal because you're only paying 5%. So the algorithm, it doesn't cost you too much money. Now, for somebody like you that has 3 or 4 or 500,000 in student loans, if you're hitting it every year at 15% of your discretionary income, you're going to pay thousands, hundreds of thousands over than what your actual principal amount is. Now, here's the kicker. Spousal income counts, so you have to indicate your husband's income because it's a joint household. You filed together. Number 2, whatever you get forgiven, it's stipulated. Again, no one has seen a 20-year forgiveness, so nobody could claim that they've paid taxes on it. I haven't seen it. We will see our first 20-year forgiveness in 2028, realistically speaking.
2028, so in 6 years. Okay.
In 6 years.
Okay.
But every president has stopped the tax bracket. So up until 2026, anything that gets forgiven, you're not going to pay taxes on it. Now, come on to 2027, or 2028, you get your first forgiveness, right?
Okay.
What's going to happen is you're going to have to pay taxes on the actual amount that's forgiven. So if you have $500,000 in student loans, you're barely paying about $300-400. Come on the 25-year, your $500,000 student loan now is at 1.2 million, and you've only paid about 60,000 towards principal. You're going to get taxed the remainder of the 1.2 million. And then
because remind our viewers that any debt forgiven is actually considered income, and you can verify that with a CPA or a tax attorney. So that's very key. And being in the wrong program was actually going to cost me this this evaluation. So she's actually bringing a live example. So this is why I wanted to have a conversation and educate our viewers, because I didn't know. And I didn't know because I just didn't read up on it, or I didn't want to know. And it is whatever the reasons may be. But I was able to consult with MK Loan Consulting and take them my loan, where Mary sat down in an hour-long session and she did a calculation of what I would owe by the end of my 25th year and what I would be paying taxes on. Now, luckily, I went early during my time where she could have, where she was able to start me in a new program and placed me in a program. Why don't you take it from there? Placed me in a program where
it benefits you. So instead of it hitting you. Yeah. Sure. So instead of it hitting you at a 15% bracket, I've had people that have got into like an ICR and it gets them at 20%. So making payments at a 10% or making payments at a 20%, it's a big structure, right? You're basically paying double. So what we did for you specifically, and are you okay with me?
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly,
so what we did
people should know, because I didn't know, for whatever reasons that may be. I think people should know, because you do offer a valuable resource. And like you said, we can do it on our own, but some of us choose not to. And I choose not to. I choose to come to you because I'm going to talk about the benefits that I was able to gain. Go ahead.
So what we did is, instead of you paying double your payments, we cut the payments in half. Now, because since you did make mistakes, but you're still under the umbrella of an IDR, realistically, I was able to go back and still collect those payments, but match them against a new term. So you don't start all over again on a 20-year term. So ultimately, that saved you a little over $200,000 just from that switch. Then obviously, we placed you into the right program where at the end of your term, you are not going to pay any taxes. And I can't give you the full details on how I did that, because that took me many years to figure it out.
Of course not. Of course not.
I can't give all the ingredients, right? I could give you the basics, but not the ingredients.
It's important for people to know that people like me were in the wrong program, not just because it's wrong for me, but it was a program that the student loan office was telling me, the Department of Education. I was just filling out an application, submitting whatever I had to, and being in a program that I thought was great because was the lowest one that I could be in, and that's what we need. But at the same time, I was not doing the right thing because I didn't know that the amount that was going to be forgiven on the aggregate is taxable. And so by switching programs and constantly yearly, as they, monitor the file every year, they placed me in programs where when it does get discharged, I will not owe the taxes on the amount forgiven. So this is wonderful. Now, so a question came in. Not sure if this was asked. It wasn't Christina. When do you recommend we contact you? How long after graduation? I've asked you this question too. So when should people contact you?
Once you graduate, when your loans are in the grace period, I call them clean loans, which means nothing's untouched. I don't have to undo anything. And we place you into the right program as soon as you graduate. So that's 6 months that you're just accruing interest on your unsubsidized and graduated loans. And they call it a grace period, but you're still capitalizing interest, right? And accruing it. Of course.
The interest is what gets you, not the student loan.
Yeah, it's the interest, because people don't understand. They think, oh, okay, I have 100,000, but that 100,000 is divided by a million different interest rates. And then when you're making just $1,000 monthly payment, it's hitting interest. Then it's going cent on the principal. So you're increasing your principal balance. Most student loans are structured in a way because they're usually a 30-year term. So the first 15 years, you're literally just covering interest, or you're just throwing your money in the air. The next 15 years is where you're hitting it on interest and principal.
It's not like a mortgage. No,
nothing like a mortgage.
First of all, it's on a high percentage. Like, I don't know what the percentages are now, but back in
they're all over the place, depending on what year you took it out.
Yeah. So mine back in 2010 was, I'm locked in like 8.2, 8.5. That's what I borrowed against. So be careful, because your interest is what's going to get you. You did. Okay. So let's go on to that. Let's talk about the fact that, sorry, I'm looking at on my notes just to make sure I cover all the topics. We talked about the fact that you will be taxed if you're in the wrong program. Forgiveness. Are you forgiving? Are you discharging loans?
Yes, on the daily.
And how
am I I can't tell you.
We don't need that, but you are. Okay. Who, demographically speaking, like pharmacists, nurses, doctors, lawyers, engineers, business person,
Dentists, nurses.
who right now in the last 2 years, because of COVID as well, have you seen have been qualifying? Because I want to get into the grant discussion, because you see the grants a couple of weeks before we see it, because you and I have had this conversation. But who should be contacting you like right now if you're
medical people? Right now, the best grants out there are for my medical personnel.
But does that mean everybody will get the grant? Everybody will get the grant?
No, you have to be qualified.
But besides qualified, is it like a lottery system where you just, it's a
both?
Draw?
There's some that are lottery based, and then some are just consecutive. For every 2-year commitment, you get additional grants and principal amounts.
Okay, so you were saying.
So every state has their own system. The state of California, for example, has 2 lottery-based systems for the medical personnel. The first one is actually today. It starts today, and it ends on March 15. The next one is March 15 to May 15, and then there is one additional one in October that comes out.
And this is something we don't know. And this is something we don't know, right? We were not the ones, you get this information. So
honestly, Christina, John, it's not the fact that you guys won't know. Some people literally, I have some very, very like knowledgeable clients. They'll come in and like, well, I did this. I was like, check. But this is where you messed up. Because it's not just me doing it. That's the biggest key. I have an amazing staff. So every person in my company has to do their portion of it, right? It's like an assembly line. I do the counselors, I do the map drawing, like this is our game plan for this client. Then it goes into processing. Then it goes into status check. It's one file gets seen and touched by at least 10 to 15 people before it gets finalized. And then if throughout the year, a grant opens up automatically, because presidents tend to do that, okay? Randomly, they'll throw a grant out there. We color coordinate our files. So we already know who's going to qualify for one. And we have one person that sits down and just literally all day in, they're applying for grants. That's what you're getting. Everybody could read, everybody could research, everybody could do it. But we're on the phone every day, 1,000,000 times with these lenders, which means as soon as it comes out, we're aware of it.
Right. And so you mentioned you have a huge staff and backing, and you cover all 50 states, right?
Yes.
Because of the fact that they're federal loans, and the Department of Education is a federal thing. Now, what if people have decided to pick up and pack up and move to Paris, but they have,
I can still help them out.
US
clients from Australia, from Greece, Spain, a lot from Armenia, where they went to school here, they fell in love and they moved out, but I'm still servicing their loans.
Okay. And the servicing, so we'll get into the pricing or the general structure of how your company works, but you have how many offices in California?
3.
3 offices in California.
Open up soon.
Okay. And then where else are you located throughout the state?
Las Vegas, New York, and then we are slowly opening up Texas. There's a lot. We just did a big financial contract, which we're given access to a lot of new offices, well over 300 at this point.
Okay.
But when it will happen, I don't know.
So one of the biggest advantages, as well as having a third-party vendor, is through a personal experience of mine, just not because not knowing the programs and not being in the right program, but also when you are in these programs, unfortunately, if you are on a 0 payment plan, or because of, for example, COVID deferred, if I'm using the terms right, deferred most of us until May, most of us wanted to seize the opportunity and go into this hot market and buying homes. Now, Mary, personally, with Mary's company, MK Loan Consulting, I've had the pleasure of working in being able to qualify for home purchasing. And I know I would be the first one to tell you all that when before going to Mary, I never thought that I would ever qualify for being a homeowner. And that's because when you have a $500,000 loan and it's just accruing interest, but yet, they're hitting your debt to income ratio, all my loan officers were deterring me away. However, one of my first contacts with Mary was, don't worry, within a year, look what's going to happen. And it took her less than 6 months to make it happen. So, Mary, I know every one of us, especially those with the hefty graduate loans, are freaking out at times where, you know, our debt to income is just not meeting it because of these interest rates and whatnot. I know I was getting hit with 1% of my loan amount, which was astronomical. Please let us know, what have you done for people like me or others who've come to you with these kind of loans and what you were able to do?
Of course. So we usually talk to our loan officers and we want to know, okay, are you hitting our client at a 1%, a 0.5%? Are you running it through an FHA or is it a conventional loan? All of these things will make a factor, because if you have a $500,000 loan and they're going to hit you at 1%, they're going to project your monthly payment to be $5,000, right? So now your debt to income ratio has to be 3 times more than your debt in order to even qualify for a home loan. So what we do is we do get a legal letter from the government. It takes us about 30 days, but our clients never listen to us and ask us to do it instantly. And we get that letter, and that letter will indicate the newer loan payment. So hypothetically speaking, instead of you getting hit at $5,000, now you're going to get hit at $100 or $200 monthly payments with the correct IDR payments. Now your debt to income significantly has decreased, which eventually will qualify you for lower rates. So you'll get lower interest rate, lower monthly payment, and you can buy a house. Your $1 million or $500,000 loan shouldn't, you know, keep you back from wanting to purchase and grow, because you want to constantly buy.
Absolutely. And the reason why Mary says 30 days, even a little longer, is because it has to hit your credit report, because that's what the lenders are looking at. They're looking at your credit report. That's what they're, you know, evaluating your debt to income, not so much. But the letter does help, and she's helped me reach different heights. And that is why I say, like, there are things you can all do. Like she said, this isn't brain surgery. Actually, nothing in this lifetime is brain surgery. You can do it if you put your mind to it. However, that is why you hire professionals. People hire me for what I do, and people hire Mary for what she does. I truly believe in going to the right person, paying the price, because you get what you pay for. And if you don't pay for anything, sometimes you just lose out on the program. So, Mary, I know we touched upon a lot tonight. We touched upon the homeowners, the police officers, the nonprofit, the private, the public, overseas. What else? What else do you want to share with us, if there's something upcoming and new, or something that's, you know, that's been just released? If not, then I want to move on to how people could contact you and what the structure is.
Honestly, right now, we're taking on priority basis any client that's in the medical field. So my doctors, my dentists, anyone that has public service, anyone that has a teaching field. Because with this program that the Biden administration opened up, I technically have until October to get everybody in. After October, guess what? The chances is gone. This is a one in a lifetime opportunity. Now, if we get them in and we grandfather it, cool. It's awesome. That means the loans will get discharged 6 years or 5 years or 4 years sooner than anticipated. But my biggest thing is we have to do everything kosher. Because a lot of people tell me, how is it that you're able to discharge my loans and I couldn't do it? I was like, well, experience.
Yeah. No.
I mean, what I know now, I wouldn't know back in 2015 or 16. It's because throughout the year, you gain more experience.
With the laws and the grants, and I know a grant came out earlier this year where you applied it. So you mentioned that there's about 10 or 10 plus people on a file. So let's talk about that. Somebody comes to you, I come to you and I say, hi, Mary, I want to meet with you. How does it work? Do you charge for consultation? How do people get in touch with you?
So they usually call my direct line. It's a cell phone based line. They'll call the 818 number, and then they'll get an appointment scheduled. We do give everybody an hour time slot, because 90% of the people that walk in have no idea on their student loans. Then if they're doing it in person, the screen will be placed in front of them, where we figure out at that time if we benefit them or not. Then we look at everything between the government system and the online portal that we have. Once that's completed, if they choose to move forward, we do have a fee, obviously, because we're not a non-profit. We're a for-profit.
Of course. Okay.
So we charge a fee, and we charge a maintenance fee as well, too. The maintenance fee is only charged once a year. It's literally under $200. So I've yet to have a complaint. I usually get the opposite. Like, you should increase your fees. You're too cheap for what you do.
Yeah.
I've gotten that a lot.
What does it the maintenance fee include? Like what is being
everything? Grants, maneuvering you in and out of programs, reminding you to get a certain income, filing the borrow of defense. Let's say your school was perfect, but 5 years down the line, your school got a lawsuit. We're going to go and file a borrow of defense. Yeah, it's a 50-50 shot, but what if we win?
Yeah.
So anything that literally benefits you, we're going to do it for you. You don't need to ask us. You've paid that.
What if schools have lost accreditation, like law schools?
Law schools are a little tricky because even though they lost accreditations, they still haven't. It's kind of like a gray zone, but not every law school will qualify. But I have gotten a BOD approved on a law school.
Okay.
That is accredited.
We're talking tomorrow for sure. But listen, I do have a client that she just contacted me. One of her schools, her law school actually is, I think, lost their accreditation. So she wanted to know. And I said, I'll put you in touch with Mary tomorrow. But okay, so then they make an appointment and then you base your fee based on their individual loan amount, right? So whatever that is.
I'll give you an example. Hypothetically speaking, we discharge 50,000 and under, we charge 1,900, which is, you pay 1,900, you don't pay 50,000.
Yeah, it's, you guys, it's not about what you pay, it's what the value. If you don't see the value, then no price is going to make sense. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I try to keep it fair because ultimately it is a third party place. I want my office to be a place where my clients genuinely get honest information. Like if you don't benefit or if you've done everything correctly, why would I take you on as a client? Maybe I'll be like, hey, do you want me to do your maintenance work and just charge you our maintenance fee? And I have done that a lot. But there's a lot of clients where they've done everything and I was like, no, you can continue doing it. And they're like, thank you. I love the reassurance. We want that to be what MK stands for. Not, oh, you know what? I'm going to call like every other company. I get student loan forgiveness calls from my dog every other year, literally. And I'm like, my dog went to college. It has loans. So it kind of sucks when you're competing in that type of industry because there's so many unaccredited facilities. But ultimately, I want people to understand, like, we're not going to take advantage of you on your grim situations. That's why we keep our consultations free. If you want to utilize our help, we're here. We'll get a legal power of attorney where that keeps us and you safe, where now we're legally responsible on how we do your application, and then we'll discharge your loans. I work like a lawyer. I only take on winning cases. I refuse to take on cases where I even have like a 50% doubt, because then I'm going to lose the integrity of my company. So I take on winning cases. I'm a cheater.
That's amazing. And that is why we're working together. So to answer your question, Eva, regarding the structure of fees, it depends on the student loan that's being discharged because you're paying, she just gave a very brief example regarding 50,000. So don't call her and quote, and not just Eva, but anybody, oh, you said 1,900 on a live. No, it depends on what you're being discharged. You have to do the math. And if the value makes sense for you, then you will be able to work with Mary. Mary, where can, first of all, your headquarters are in Glendale, correct?
Yes.
You and I are actually in the same building. So that's how we had the pleasure of meeting. Our offices are doors apart. So, you're in Glendale. I know you have an OC office, which you celebrated the first year anniversary.
Yes, we hit the first year anniversary.
Congratulations on that.
Released to our West LA office as well too, so our Beverly Hills location.
Wow. You're getting a lot of amazing comments, Mary. You'll see it later. You're amazing. People are going to call you. Like I said, one of the law schools closed down. Christopher's mentioning his law school closed down. He'll be in touch with you. So look, this program was just brought to you just for basic information. I know student loans is it's the two words that nobody wants to hear. And I think it weighs and bears us down, day and night as we work hard, no matter what job we have, because it's something that's always behind or in the forefront of our minds. So why I wanted to have Mary as our guest is because of the fact that she opens up opportunities and she's a phone call away. She's booked. She actually has a meeting after this live. So she's very booked. If she doesn't get to you, somebody from her office will. But why you should reach out to her is just to know your options. And
just to know if you're doing everything wrong, literally, or right.
Yeah, and that's what helps us, move the system. And somebody has to do it. For me, it was Mary, and I honestly have seen the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's opened up many opportunities for me. And I really do appreciate the fact that you took your time from your busy schedule on a Tuesday night, and you provided us with this information. So let me briefly say, Mary's located in Glendale, 225 East Broadway, Suite 106. You can reach her at 818-203-1918. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop her contact information as soon as the live is consolidated. I will put our information. You can always contact us. This live will be aired on YouTube too. So if you think that somebody will benefit, please share it. And if you have any questions that we haven't been able to answer, I've been monitoring the feed, please feel free to reach out to Mary and contact her, make an appointment, and see what she's all about. If she could help you, then this was our pleasure, and we've done our public service. And if she can't, that means you're doing something right. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Honestly, thank you. I appreciate it. For trusting me, because a lot of clients don't want to share their, personal information out in public. So thank you for actually speaking up for me and seeing the end of the tunnel. We've been able to do multiple things, and I know we're going to have fun again.
We definitely are.
So we're going to have fun.
Mary, thank you so much for joining us. We will be in touch, and thank you everyone for joining our program tonight.
Thank you.